You're okay, and you got sound, and it's good sound. You're okay on the audio? Okay, great. Haggai, why does McDonald's restaurant exist? Why does it exist? Why has it prospered for all these years?
Because of their great processes, selling people fast food.
Ashley, why does Ford Motor Company exist? After all these years, it's been around for 120 years. Why is it still around?
I'd say because of their brand.
Okay.
Make enough profit.
Why else do they exist? Why does Albert's Ball Bearing Company exist? Derek.
Because there's a need.
That's right.
And they're satisfying a need.
That's right. And they're satisfying that need for people who need something that the people can't do themselves.
Correct.
If I could make my own 17-cent cheeseburgers or whatever, that's the last time I was there, so I don't know what they cost now, I would do that. And if I could make my own car, I'd do that. It'd be cheaper and easier, maybe. If I could grow my own food, I'd do that. Every business on the planet exists for only one purpose. It can do something better or faster or cheaper than people or someone else can do it on their own. Right? So why does Avatar exist?
I know the answer. Make the world a safer place.
Because people can't do it on their own?
Yes.
And what is it that we deliver to them? What products or services do we provide, do you think? Ashley, you're new, so you get softballs. What do you think we deliver?
We help enhance their employees' performance at their job.
Because we can do it better than they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge in our instant case is to prove to them that we can do it better, faster, cheaper than they can do it themselves, right? Okay, I just wanted to lay a foundation that every business exists to do something that we can't do for ourselves. If I want to write someone a letter and I want to write it on a notebook, I don't go make my own paper. I don't grind up a tree and make pulp and then make paper. I go buy paper at the store. It's cheap. And they make a lot of paper, so it's really, really cheap, right? We could make paper, arguably, but it would cost a lot of money, take a lot of time, and we wouldn't be very good at it. We wouldn't be very good paper. Everybody exists to do what other people can't do, okay? And that's going to be important because today we're going to be laser focused on your target audience. I want to get you up to speed as quickly as you can so you can walk out and say the right words, okay? Here we have Bob's Ball Bearing Company. Who knows what a ball bearing is? Haggai, you know all about cars. What's a ball bearing?
It's like a steel little ball.
Mm-hmm.
You put it between like pivot points to make sure there's not too much friction.
Yeah, you have a ring, and then you have a bunch of balls like this, right? And then you have another ring right here, so that this ring and this ring are separated from one another. Your wheels, tires, gears, whatever. Bob makes great big bearings though. His bearings are so big, they weigh 3,000 pounds a piece. He makes great big bearings, and because they weigh 3,000 pounds a piece, people buy his bearings and need 3,000 pound big bearings. They can't make their own ball bearings that are 3,000 pounds. They have to buy them from Bob. Bob is in Boston. Bob's Boston Ball Bearing Company is the only guy that makes 3,000 pound big ball bearings. But somebody who's making cranes in Wichita Falls, Kansas needs Bob's ball bearings. How does Bob sell his ball bearings to Wichita Falls, Kansas? He gets on the phone, or he has a website, or he has an ad, or he runs an ad in the magazine, or he has a sales guy running around saying, we got the best big ball bearings around. And the guy in Kansas says, I'll take 20 of them. So 20 of them, and they're 3,000 pounds apiece, is, quick, do the math, 60,000 pounds? 60,000 pounds, I want 60,000 pounds of your ball bearings. And they're only $1 a pound, so for $60,000, we'll buy your ball bearings. Great, here's the check. When do my ball bearings get here? What does Bob do?
Find a way to transport it over.
That's right, because Bob is in the business of making ball bearings. He's not in the business of transporting ball bearings. He's in the business of making ball bearings. So who does he call? And that's not Ghostbusters. Who does he call?
Transportation company.
He calls be more explicit. He calls the same person that Ashley's going to call. He calls a trucking company, right? Because the trucking company does what? It's in the business to do what?
Deliver.
More explicitly.
Take products from A and they drop them off at B.
Thank you. Here's A. Well done. The trucking company is going to take Bob's big ball bearings from point A, and it's going to go over here to Wichita Falls, Kansas, and it's going to deliver the ball bearings.
Safely, on time, and also not destroyed.
Well, they're pretty tough ball bearings, but I'm with you. Okay, that's good. Safely, write that down, safely, on time, and not destroyed. With a little bit of luck, no one's going to steal the ball bearings, right?
Yeah.
And,
I want to see him do that.
yeah, and the trucking company is going to charge Bob or Bill, who bought the ball bearings, it's going to charge one of them to do this service. When I say, why does every company in the world exist? Why does a trucking company exist? Because they can take Bob's ball bearings more cost effectively and efficiently than Bob can do it himself, or that Bill can do it himself, because you can't put a 3,000 ball bearing in a Yugo. So trucking companies exist for only one purpose, and that purpose is to take stuff, big, heavy stuff, from point A to point B with what?
Safely, on time, and not destroyed.
Right, because if it's destroyed, Bob gets screwed and doesn't get paid, or Bill doesn't get his bearings. If it's not on time, Bill can't assemble his cranes when he wants to assemble his cranes. Why is safely important? Does Bob care about safely?
To get in an accident, it can delay the delivery.
Thank you. That's right. And so does Bill, because it's going to delay. How about if Bob happened to be DuPont Chemical Company? Does DuPont Chemical Company care if you haul their stuff safely?
Yes,
Why?
because they transport a certain chemical
Mm-hmm.
which has regulations,
Mhm.
needs certifications, and if it becomes a biohazard
That's-
issue, an EPA, well,
Exactly.
as long as the EPA is still around.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
But there's still lawsuits. And by the way, if I am the trucking company and I'm hauling for DuPont and I drop a screaming nasty out on the highway, DuPont's pissed off at me because their name's in the newspaper, not my name. It's a DuPont product spilled all over the highway and poisoned little baby puppies or something, right? So they're in trouble with the news. And the long arm of our American civil law would stretch beyond the trucking company if it weren't financially solvent enough and say, well, you hired this trucking company, Hagai's Trucking Inc., with 2 trucks, and they spilled this, but they don't have enough money to pay for the dead puppies, and so we're going after you, right? So yes, safely is also important, but to your point, efficiently, on time, and not getting damaged are really key elements, right? Okay, so this is the truck that hauled Bob's bearings over to Bill. This is Ashley. There's a Y, there's an E in there, isn't there?
That's right.
Ashley Transport. And you own the trucking company. Why are you in business? It's a softball.
Yeah, just to fulfill the need to help other companies.
Yeah, But there's a selfish need too, isn't there, Ashley?
To make a lot of money.
To make a lot of money, not just a little. No, so she went right to a lot. I love that. To make a lot of money. Ashley wants to make a lot of money. How are you going to make money?
By transporting a lot of things.
That's right, because Bob wants his bearings to go here. He sold his bearings to Bill, and they did a deal. I don't know what the deal is. It could be what's called freight prepaid, meaning he's going to pay the freight, or it could be freight that they have to pay, but somebody's going to pay Ashley's trucking company to haul that freight. Am I right? How much money? How much money does it take to move 60,000 pounds? I'm going to change this just real quickly. 40,000 pounds. He sold them for $1 a pound. And these weigh 2,000 pounds each. Why did I change that to 40,000, Derek?
Rounder. No.
I can't put 60,000 on a truck. How much am I allowed to put on a truck? Any idea, a guy? By law?
38,000.
That's a good guess. How much do you think? But I just said 40, so it's got to be over 38.
42.
42 is a good guess. Usually around 45,000 is the limit. GDW is 80,000. So if I add my tractor, and I add my trailer, and I add my freight and my driver, I'm limited to 80,000 pounds. Okay? This together weighs 34 to 35,000 pounds, leaving me room for 80,000 pounds of cargo. By the way, do anyone want to take a stab at how much a load of ping pong balls weighs? Full trailer load, 53 feet long of ping pong balls, 2,800 pounds. And most of that's the cartons and the pallets that it's on. So steel doesn't take up much room. It's really dense and heavy. Ping pong balls are real light and fluffy. But guess how much it costs me to run this here's Ashley's transport. Oh man, damn it. Ashley's transport down the road. Whether or not I got ping pong balls or ball bearings in my truck, it's going to cost me $1.50 a mile to go down the highway. That's paying for the driver, the insurance, the fuel, the tires, the wear and tear on the vehicle, and the capital expenditure of paying for trucks on either lease or purchasing them over time and the available miles that they're going to run, which is 300,000 miles. It's going to cost me $1.50 a mile. So Ashley, you're a smart business person, and you own a trucking company. How much are you going to charge Bob to haul his ball bearings over here to Bill in Wichita Falls, Kansas? Something more than $1.50 a mile. That's exactly right. You're going to charge more than $1.50 a mile. You have to pay for the $1.50 a mile for the truck, but what else do you have to pay for? Over here, you had a salesperson who made the sales call. You had to pay them some money. And then you had a dispatcher right here who had to dispatch the thing. You had a shop down here who had to fix the truck. You had to pay this person a little bit of money. You probably had an IT department over here, and you had to pay them a little bit of money.
Warehouse.
Might have, but in a truckload operation, probably not.
They're going to dock to dock.
Yeah, yeah.
Insurance.
Very good. Insurance. You had to pay, they're out here somewhere, right? You had to pay the insurance company money, right? So you had a lot of different expenses. So you're going to charge Bob, you ready for this number? I don't think you guys are ready for this number. You're going to charge Bob $1.85 a mile. Not a big difference, is it? How come you're charging why don't you charge $3 a mile?
Because the
They're
guys,
gonna be competitive in it.
That's right, because somebody down the street's going to charge them $1.85 and you're hosed. There's a lot of competition. It's a nickel and dime business. Trucking on the best of its days makes about 6 or 7 cents on the dollar. 6 or 7 cents a profit on a dollar of revenue. Trucking is the most basic of all businesses in the world. Think about it. Ashley, you have this timer. You want Derek to have it. Fine, for $1, I'll take it over here and give it to Derek, and I won't screw it up, and I'll get it to him on time. how much more basic a business can there be? I mean, there's no special patents, there's no special formulas, there's no special gee whizzy stuff about it. It's, I'm going to pick up your boxes and take them somewhere for you. I mean, that's even more basic than a bus driver. A bus driver has to take human beings somewhere and not drop them and hurt them, right? And the worst case, I drop some ball bearings on the road. You know, they don't even sue me. Yeah, I'm delayed, but a bus driver's got people on the bus. If I wreck the bus, I bought the farm, right? And so this is a very basic business operating on a very small margin. For that reason, they have to watch very carefully all of the what we call key performance indicators, or KPI, that would influence whether or not they can make a little bit of profit. And that little bit of profit is a very small number. So I'm going to get rid of all these other people here just for a minute. We know that they're out there. We know that we pay money on them. But all we really care about right now is this truck and this truck driver. You said what were the things he's going to do? There's three things.
Safety.
Okay, safety. Define safety for me, though. What does safety mean? I know the definition, but in this case.
No accidents or injuries.
That's right. So on a macro level, Ashley every morning gets up and says, hey, do we have any accidents? Because accidents are expensive. Ashley comes to work on Monday morning and says, I was gone over the weekend. Anybody get hurt? Because injuries are expensive. I have to pay for the person to go home and watch reruns of I Love Lucy. I have to pay for their medical bills. I have to pay for the attorneys to adjudicate the case, right? So safety is one of the key performance indicators. What was the next one you said?
On-time delivery.
On time. Ashley says, hey, last week we had that load from Bob going to Bill. We promised it was going to be here this morning at 9 o'clock. Did we make it on time? And they go, no, the guy broke down. No, the guy got lost. No, the guy had an accident. No, whatever, right? If it didn't, what are the implications? What if I don't deliver on time? Do I lose money?
Yes,
Why?
because you didn't succeed.
Might I take you off again the next offer?
Thank you. I will probably get paid in this instant case this time, but is Bob going to call me next time? No.
Everybody loses money all the way down the line.
That's right.
If Bill had an order that those were fulfilled, then he's out, transportation's out, and then Bob's out because he doesn't have product or the money.
That's right. That's right. The next one is, you said,
No damage.
no damage. In the trucking industry, we call this cargo. The shit that goes on a truck is called cargo, and that would be called a cargo claim, meaning you wrecked what I gave you. I gave you round ping pong balls and you smashed them all, and now they're no good. Now, ball bearings are a little hard to damage, but there's a lot of stuff that is easy to damage. You can poke holes in the side of drums of gooey stuff like paint, right? You can smash furniture. You can let tampons get wet on the truck and they're no good. I've had all these happen, by the way. All this stuff happens, and it's called a cargo claim. And just so you can write it down and learn, this is called O, S, and D. The O stands for over. When I got there, there was more than we were supposed to have. The S is for short. When I got there, there weren't as many as I started with. And D stands for damage. When I got there, some of them were mushed up. And you're going to say to me, wait a second, I get the S and the D. That O is blowing my mind. How can you have more than you started with? In a lot of operations, we mix and match freight from more than one customer, and you end up mixing and matching cartons that don't belong to an order. And so you started with 30 cartons of Pampers, and when you got there, you got 44 cartons because 10 or 12 are supposed to go to somebody else, creating an overage here, which inevitably caused what? A shortage over there. That's exactly right. Right. There are whole departments in trucking companies that all they do, all day long, is trying to reconcile overages and shortages and get them all sorted back out, and to figure out how much the damages are so that they can pay the customer for the damages.
Is OSD
OS and D.
a data point that is readily available, or is that something they kind of keep close to their chest?
It's readily available, and every single trucking company in America has OS&D departments. Every single trucking company in America keeps track of their OS&D, and almost every single trucking company pays 1% of revenue for OS&D. So if they brought in $100, they paid a dollar for OS&D over the course of a year. Everybody. It's universal. It's universal. Injuries and accidents, as I have taught you before, every single company on the planet pays anywhere from 2 to 6% of revenue for injuries and accidents combined. And we'll get into cost of loss later. Nobody pays directly for on-time or not on-time performance, but the truth is, if you don't do it well and consistently, you will lose market share, right? There's some other things that they care about. Ashley cares about something called productivity, just like McDonald's does. How many cheeseburgers an hour did I make might be something that they care about at McDonald's. How many vitamins I sold per day at a vitamin store, how many new accounts I signed up at a payroll service. There are measures of productivity of what we're getting accomplished with the amount of money or dollars we're spending. For truckload companies, productivity is usually measured in miles per week. Miles per week. So in a case of J Rail, our buddy down the street that sleeps with Derek, we're recording, darn it. Sorry, Derek.
It's fine.
He's aiming for 2,800 miles a week per driver. And so he takes his 325 drivers that he's fortunate to have because we found them for him. A little dig on camera. And he divides that by the total number of miles he drove, and he looks at the number, and if that number is 2,650, he says, wow, we weren't very productive last week. And if that number is 2,900, wow, we knocked it out of the park last week. There are other measures of productivity at the company called SEVA, which doesn't haul truckloads of stuff, but rather hauls a pallet of this and 2 barrels of that, right? It hauls what's called LTL, less than truckload. It hauls heavy stuff, but multiple shipments on one truck. They have another measure of productivity called pounds per man hour. You take all the hours you paid people on the docks, and it's man hour because in the old days it was only men, today it's not, and you take all the pounds and you divide it. And so I used to run the largest break bulk in America called Hagerstown, Maryland, Ryder PIE, and we did roughly 22 million pounds a week. So we cross-docked 22 million pounds a week. When you did the math times the 650 guys that worked for me, we were really, really happy when we got 2,200 pounds a man hour. If we got 2,300 pounds a man hour, we had a party. If we had 1,900 pounds a man hour, I didn't answer the phone because my boss was going to call and scream at me. Why was he going to scream? Because somewhere, somebody along the line has decided that productivity and pounds per man hour translates to profitability. Why? Because if productivity drops, I paid money but didn't get work done. If accidents and injuries go up, I paid money that came out of my profitability. Everybody with me so far on this? This is exactly why Avatar exists. Avatar understands not only trucking, but any other business as it relates to key performance indicators influencing productivity. And we're going to get to why that's so important to us. A couple more. The other thing Leslie's going to come in, Ashley's going to come in and ask is, what was our load average? Load average is the total number of trucks divided by the total weight divided by the total trucks. So last week I moved 10 million pounds and it took me 214 trucks. Do the math, comes out to some number. That number is usually around 30,000 pounds. If the number is 40,000 pounds, that means I got more weight on the trucks. Remember, it cost me $1.50 to go down a mile. And more weight, usually not always, means more revenue. So if the trucks are fuller, if they're full like this instead of full like that, all things being equal, they make more money. That said, heavy shit like bearings, gets a very low freight rate, whereas ping pong balls gets a very high freight rate.
Because there's less ball bearings in there.
That's right, because yeah, your truck is going to be at maximum weight, and it's going to be a foot high. You're going to be able to dance around inside.
You can do 60,000 ping pong balls and still.
And it's stuffed full, right? Until 1980, when Ronald Reagan deregulated the industry, the ICC, or the Interstate Commerce Commission, regulated all freight rates. They were called tariffs. And by law, every trucking company in America, by law, had to charge the same amount of money. So if you were sending your ball bearings from Boston to Kansas City, every trucking company in America gave you the same exact price by law. If you were hauling ping pong balls, they gave you the same exact price. It was called a regulated environment. It was to protect commerce. It was to make sure that the American consumers got a fair shake out of transportation. Reagan came in. I'm a big fan of Reagan. Reagan came in, although he decimated the industry, and said, no, let's just let the market sort it out. Let everybody decide what they want to charge. And let everybody have 48 state authority and drive all over the place whenever they want for $100. And so in 1980, he broke the unions by deregulating trucking. And that decimated the Teamsters, because until then, none of us cared. I was in the industry in those days. None of us cared what the freight rates were. None of us even cared that a Teamster made $70,000 a year in 1972 driving a truck, because we made $71,000. And if they said they were going to strike, great. They were going to go on strike. They were going to get a raise. What did that mean? I get a raise. And the trucking companies didn't care because the freight rates went up. Everything just all went up. And so trucking, until Ronald Reagan, was an enormously lucrative, profitable cash cow that we all got fat, dumb, and happy on. When he deregulated it, all that changed. All that changed, and everybody could charge whatever they want. So J-Rail can say, hey, Bob, I'll haul your ball bearings for $1.65. A guy might say, I'll charge you $1.95, and Ashley comes in at $1.85. He says, but I'll guarantee I'll get them in on time for you.
Why are transportation companies happy when fuel goes up?
Because the government, the DOT in 2000, well, let's say around 2000, somewhere along the line when the fuels kept going all over the ballpark, they created a fuel surcharge. And so they said, even though you guys are all competing on on a competitive playing field and you can charge anything you want, you may legally charge a fuel surcharge because fuel is currently high. And so Jeremy might say, okay, we're going to charge you $1.50, but there's an 8% fuel surcharge. And by law, I'm allowed to charge you, and everybody does it, and that's still kind of an equalizing factor. So when fuel is high, they charge the fuel charge, and they actually make a little bit of money on that.
Gotcha.
When fuel is low, they're not allowed to.
They're not allowed to do
Yeah,
it by
right.
law.
By law,
Okay.
yeah.
Deregulation benefit then? Bigwigs?
If you believe in trickle-down economics, it benefited our economy because everything became cheaper. And that's true. Everything at Walmart was less expensive because the freight rates plummeted. By 60 or 70% they plummeted, which made vegetables cheaper, furniture cheaper, cars cheaper, and everything else cheaper. It also meant that 7.5 million people started making less money. So they had less money to spend in the first place, right? I'm not a union organizer here. I'm just telling you those are the macro trends that happened. There's a paper on it that you can read on our website. One of our white papers tells this whole story. My point today, though, is to try and explain the relationship between key performance indicators making money and why Avatar exists and what we can do. So let's go over a few more. Load average productivity, no damage, on time, no injuries, no accidents, which is really safety, so I'm going to wipe that one off. Another factor that Ashley may care about is total sales volume. Because she's like Jeremy, she loves money, so she wants to be bigger. She wants more sales because more sales, if I'm making 5 cents on the dollar, is more profits, and I can buy, what would you buy if you had more money? Shoes? Baby formula? New car?
Awesome.
Tennis rackets? You'd buy more things, right? You'd have more money to spend. Okay, so sales volume is probably important. Another thing is fuel economy. Fuel is a big, big piece of the pie. Okay? Fuel out of this $1.50 is probably about 30 cents. So it costs about 30 cents to go down the highway 1 mile in terms of fuel. They're only getting 6 miles to the gallon, right? 5, 6 miles to the gallon. So if I can get 7 miles to the gallon, that makes that number 26 cents, and I pick up 4 cents a mile. That's big, right? And so all the new tractors are shaped like this to get better aerodynamics. And all the new tractors have a scoop like this and a scoop like this. And when you go out tonight, you'll see all the new tractors have skirts down the side.
The back of the trailer also has.
And they have those goofy ass things on the back like this. That's right. Every one of those things is an engineering attempt to get better streamlining and better aerodynamics so I can pick up another 1/10 of a mile. And if you say, well, this is $500, how many miles do I have to drive before I get my money back? They do the math and they say it makes sense.
And then once you cut through the sustainability message, that's why they're going to CNG, because that can.
CNG, again, Jeremy made a play to go off of diesel when diesel was $4 a gallon and went to CNG, which was $3 a gallon. And at the time, he was the wunderkind and made a lot of sense. Now that diesel is $2.40, he's still paying $3 for his CNG, and he had to pay $40,000 more per truck for the truck. So now he's hosed, as long as diesel is low. That's a gamble, though. That's like stick it all on 18 black and spin, and hope for the best. He won for 3 years. All right, so we care about fuel economy. We care about something called MM, or maintenance mile. Excuse me. Oh, it's around the camera. I'm so sorry. We care about how much I have to pay to keep this truck fully functional and running. And brand new trucks cost almost nothing. And really old trucks cost a lot, just like a car, right? And so I do a value trade-off as Ashley. I own my company. I think, well, maybe I should buy some new trucks. Oh man, that's an awful big investment, $10 million for new trucks. However, I'll save $2 million a year in maintenance costs. It'll take me 5 years to get my money back. But guess yet, in 5 years, I'm back to the same old problem again, spending all that money on maintenance. These are all balancing or competing elements. Key performance indicators are things that our customer has figured out are important to making money. They're the things that they look at every day. When Ashley, the owner of Ashley's Transport, comes to work in the morning, these are the things she's asking her lieutenants about. Did we have any injuries? Did we have any accidents? What was on-time delivery? How many miles per driver per day did I get? What's my maintenance cost? She calls up the maintenance shop. How much did you spend last week? I can do the math. I can divide the miles. And guess what? This industry is so damn simple. You can figure out these numbers every 12 hours. You don't have to wait a month or two. You don't have to, figure out whether or not, you're penetrating markets or anything else like that. You can say, shit, we got $1.47 yesterday. Because you have your revenue from yesterday, you have your miles from yesterday. It's instantaneous gratification or instantaneous depression. But you get it right away. It's a fix. And when I worked on the docks and I had 40 or 50 men working for me moving freight, at the end of the night, we knew exactly how many, down to the pound, how many pounds we moved across the dock, how many hours we used. We did the math, we posted it on the wall, and we either went out and had a beer or we tried to avoid the phone call from the boss. Because we knew whether or not we had done good in the last 8 hours or not. And if we didn't move enough pounds per man hour, we got an ass for chewing, big time. Because somehow that was our fault, that the people weren't able to move more freight across the dock. And so early in my career, when they called me Little Hitler, my job was to literally chase people down every single time they stopped for 20 seconds to talk about the Cleveland Browns or any other thing other than humping freight. If they went into the bathroom for more than a minute, I would go in and open the door, and I'd be beating on the stall going, you didn't eat it on company time, you're not going to shit it on company time. Get back out to work. And when I walked down the dock, they do the Heil Hitler sign. I was an asshole because I was getting beat up on a regular basis for a bigger number. And I thought the best answer to get the bigger number was to make sure everybody kept moving. Not true, by the way. That's called a Theory X manager. People are bad, you got to whip them into shape. I eventually came to see the light and became a Theory Y manager. Give them the tools they need and get out of their way and treat them well, and they'll probably move enough freight that you'll get kudos, which I did. Anyway, we, Ashley, do not question the key performance indicators that our clients tell us are important. A guy goes out and he asks, what's important around here? What's good look like? What's a good job look like? What's good performance look like? And somebody says 2,800 miles per driver per week, a 33,000 pound load average, an 81% on-time delivery, 0 injuries, 0 accidents. They know these numbers like you know your kids' names instantly. They know all these numbers. So we don't question this. There's no reason to question it. They figured it out. That's what's important to them. That's how they make money. What we do care about, though, is why did that number go up or down? Why did it get better or worse? And there's a lot of different things that influence that number, but Avatar argues that the number one influencer in a trucking company on the most important numbers, and in particular the most important numbers for us are safety numbers, because that's where you're going to focus your energy. This is where we can save them 2 or 3%. How much do they make again? What do we say a trucking company makes? We said it makes 5 or 6% profit, right? What's that number again?
6%, that's your profit right there.
If I reduce this to 3 from 6, that goes to 8 or 9. I just doubled your profits by saving you 3% of your losses. We're not saving them revenue dollars here. We're saving them profit dollars. That's an important distinction that you'll have to be able to make off the top of your tongue to say, what are you spending for losses? They're going to say, oh, I don't know. Who's your risk manager? Let's ask your risk manager. Your risk manager knows. And we'll talk about loss costs at another time, but loss cost is a huge number in a trucking company, and it's a number that we reliably reduce by 30 to 50%. Reliably, 30 to 50%. If they're doing nothing at all, we can reduce them 30 to 50%. What's that worth? Well, it's worth whatever their lost dollars are times 30 to 50%. So if Jeremy Rail is spending $1 million a year and he starts using our stuff, we can probably save him $300,000 to $400,000 a year. What's that worth? $300,000 to $400,000? I'll only charge you $100 to do it. All right, makes sense. Okay, good. So going back, we don't question their KPI, but what we try and do, and Hagai's working on a more effective model for this right now, but what we try and do, and we say, well, who does the work around this joint? Well, we have truck drivers, dispatchers, mechanics, dispatchers, etc. And when we say who, we say, who should it be? Meaning, who is a really, really, really great fit for the job? This is a new departure, guys, so watch carefully. Who's a great fit for this job? Who's a really good truck driver? Who's a really good salesperson? Who's a really good videographer with a dry sense of humor? Who is a really good editor? Who's a really good artist? Who's a really good taxi cab driver? And we use our model called Can Do, Will Do to ascertain who's a good fit because it's got knowledge, skills, abilities, values, motivations, and personality that says, wow, this is what a really, really good truck driver looks like. And so we do a pass at that. And we look at a big group of people, truck drivers in this case, and we say, what's a really good truck driver look like? Well, guess what? We've been to a lot of trucking companies, 300 of them, 250 of them at least. We know what a good truck driver looks like. It's like we know better than they know what a good truck driver is. And so when we show them our model and we say, this is what a good truck driver looks like, they bob their head up and they go, yep, that's a good truck driver. Where do you find them? Because I don't have any of those guys. So who and who is a good fit and who should it be is one of the first questions because we have a theory that says if you have best fit people, people who are really a good fit for the job, they will work in a way that improves all of these KPIs. If you've got a best fit salesperson, they're going to sell more stuff, right? If you got a safe, courteous driver, he or she is going to be productive, not mess up, not have accidents or injuries. If you've got a very conscientious driver who's money motivated and ambitious, he'll get you the 2,800 miles per week, right? So best fit is pass number one. Pass number two is what? What do these people do? What does a truck driver do? Derek?
Driving's the easy answer, but the majority, depending on their industry, so let's use CAG, they drive, they transport fuel from A to B, but then they get out and they do the cross fuel and they do the drop, and they have to go and take the tanker hose off, and that's, like I was trying to tell Ashley, a lot of our clients don't see themselves as truck drivers. They're not professional drivers. They're mudders in the oil field, or they're, the geek squad.
Yeah.
But
They just happen to drive to get there.
80% of their accidents and injuries happens while they're behind the wheel.
That's because that's the most dangerous thing they do.
Exactly.
All right. So what they do, though, is an amalgamation. It's a combination. It's an accumulation of what we call behaviors. And if you took behavior theory back in the day, this is green, I'm going to get it all over me, so I'm going to set it aside. If you took Skinnerism or behavior or Pavlov, you learned that every single act of a human being or a monkey can be synthesized down to a behavior. I put the pen on the table, that's a behavior. I scratched my head, that's a behavior. I flipped Mad Dog off, that's a behavior. All right, so every single thing that I do is a behavior. Skinner, I believe, said every behavior is driven by an antecedent. The phone rang, I answered it. I was hungry, I got something to eat. I wanted to make a joke, I flipped off Mad Dog. So there's always this antecedent precedes the behavior. And Pavlov came along and said, no. It's not an antecedent, we're doing things to get rewards. And he rang his bell and fed his dogs and made them salivate to prove that they were trying to get a reward. The truth is, it's all three. The phone rings, I answer the phone, hey, it's Drew Jones and he just gave us a $100,000 contract, right? I got the reward that I was expecting. Or my wife said, I want you to come home right now because I miss you. Whatever. Boy, I cleaned that one up. So we can add up all of the discrete behaviors that Arnie, this is Arnie, that Arnie does in the course of work in a given day. He backs into the dock at Bob's. He opens the doors safely and latches them so that they don't swing open and hit the trailer next to him. He walks carefully through the lot so as to not slip and fall in a pothole. He holds the rail when he goes up the stairs to the dock. He announces his arrival. Hi, do we give him a name? Al. I'm Al from Ashley's Trucking. I'm here to pick up a load that I think is going to Kansas somewhere. And he informs the dock supervisor. The dock supervisor says, go sit in that room over there. We'll load your truck and we'll let you know when it's ready. He says, yes, sir. And he goes and he sits in that room and has a cup of coffee while they load his truck. He then stands up, comes back out and signs some papers. He looks at the load to make sure it's secured properly. He pulls his truck out, closes the doors. He sets his electronic log to start recording the fact that he's no longer working and not driving, but now he's working and driving. And he pulls out of the yard safely. He signals with his right turn. He looks both ways, left, right, left again, because that's where the danger comes from, pulls out and starts down the highway. Every single one of those, behavior, 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 behavior. Now he's out on the road. He's driving along. A little red car cuts him off on the highway and then slams on his brakes. He slams on his brakes to avoid hitting him. That's a behavior. The antecedent was the red car. The reward was I don't hit him in the ass. But the behavior was I put my foot on the brake. He approaches an intersection. It's a green light. He didn't see the light turn green, so we call it a stale green light. He doesn't know when it's going to turn red. And a good behavior, a safe behavior is he covers his brake, expecting the light to turn. He's ready for it, so he doesn't have to slam on his brakes. He's at the red light now, and the light turns green. He doesn't gun the engine and pull right in right away. Rather, he takes a breath, waits a beat, looks left, right, left again to make sure that nobody's going to run the red light. Why does he do all those behaviors? Because Al is a safe driver. Al is avoiding accidents. Now, everything I just described to you, we can teach Al. And everything I just described to you happened in the last 15 minutes in the wrong way. They ran the red light, they didn't put their foot on the brake, they didn't signal, they didn't look left, right, left. They didn't even check in with the dispatcher over there. They didn't tie their trailer doors, and when they pulled out, a door swung open and hit the trailer next to it, causing an accident. They didn't hold the steps or the rail when they walked up the steps, and they slipped and fell and got injured, costing this company $16,000 for the injury. Every single behavior I just described can be taught. And we can teach it, and we can teach it better than they know how to teach it themselves, which is why we exist. Now, what do we want to do? We want to make all these behaviors be good behaviors, and any behaviors that are bad behaviors, we want them to go away, right? Unsafe behaviors, because those behaviors collectively have a levering effect. Think of a teeter-totter. They have a levering effect, either good or bad, on every single one of these. They either loaded more freight on the truck or they didn't. They either pulled out on time or they didn't. They either stopped for a 2-hour pie and coffee break or they didn't, getting there on time or not. They either drove with a nice shifting pattern so that they got the maximum fuel economy, or they kept gunning it and slamming on the brakes so they got shitty fuel economy. Every one of those is a behavior, folks, and every one of those we can influence through either education and training, and in some cases through hiring more conscientious, risk-avoiding, compliant individuals. Yes, it begins with selection. You got to start with good stuff or your chili's going to be bad. You have to have good ingredients, right? So we say selection is everything. You start with the right people, you provide them education and training, but that education and training isn't just about, oh, we got a training program with us and such. It's got to be meaningful, which is why we call it outcome-based training. We are focused on outcomes, fiercely focused on outcomes, fiercely focused on improving results. I don't really care about a sexy video. I don't care about a pretty poster. I don't care about a wonderful website if it doesn't do something to one of these. Because if it doesn't do something to one of these, why the hell are we there? And we should be fired. Really, we shouldn't even be there unless we can impact this. So let me go way back to my first question. As far as you're concerned, for the next 6 months, we exist to make the world a safer place. I don't hear anything else. I don't hear human performance or anything else. We exist to make the world a safer place. We do that by analyzing your business and identifying what the key performance indicators are. By analyzing the people who do the work to make sure you have best fit employees, and by looking specifically at what they do so that we can influence those behaviors through custom outcome-based education and training. And that's enough. We do a shit ton more than that, by the way, Ashley. If you just could say those words, we exist to make the world a safer place. We do it by analyzing your business, the people who do the work, and the things that they do. And then we design outcome-based education and training that improves their performance when we're successful, and we usually are. These metrics, these KPI get better, and you, my friend, make more money. We exist to make the world a safer place. We do that by analyzing your business, the people who work in your business, and the specific work that they do. We then design custom education and training that influences their behaviors so that these key performance indicators improve and you make more money. If we get somebody to just understand that, the sale is done. It literally is done. Now, I tried to make every single one of these every single one of these examples truck specific. You are focused on trucks, right? Big trucks. These are real. Every single one of these is a real KPI in the industry. Every single one of these is the most important things that they care about. They may care about other stuff, but they really care about this stuff a lot because they figured out this stuff tells them whether or not they're going to make money next month.
Explain a little bit how, okay, so we have all these
KPIs, yep, key performance indicators.
But some of the people, and I'll make it actually specific, that she's calling on are going to care more about certain ones
Absolutely.
than others.
That's right. So I get a call, or not a call, I get a LinkedIn request from a guy at Nestle's Foods. His last name is Kiel, Kiel, yesterday. And it said something about safety, and he cared about safety. So I connected with him. I sent him back a message. I said, yeah, we exist to make the world a safer place. We'd love to get together and talk to you sometime. I then read his profile in the second message after we connect, and he is responsible for OS&D at Nestle's. He wants to make sure they don't melt the chocolate bars, okay? Or whatever you do, bad things to Nestle's food. He goes, dude, I'm in cargo. I'm responsible for reducing cargo claims. And so I came back and said, look, an accident is an accident. And if you have a cargo claim, it's because somebody made a mistake. Some human did something wrong. We can fix that. He goes, I get it, and I appreciate that, and we may want to talk at some point, but it sounds to me like you really want to talk to, and they filled in the blank, Diane so-and-so, because she's over accidents and injuries. And so to your point, he cares about cargo. She cares about accidents and injuries. And if we were talking to a shop manager, he may care about maintenance miles.
A sales vice president is.
May cause a, yeah. However, the majority of the people you're going to talk to fall into three buckets. You ready who they are? Do you know who they are already? Did you tell her who they are?
I mean,
Well,
safety
you're going to talk to safety managers, and one would think that safety managers would give a rat's elbow about accidents and injuries. But sadly, when you read the paper, The Perversion of Safety, you'll find that these poor schmucks have been relegated to the role of maintaining regulatory compliance with the federal rules. OSHA and DOT. And there are so many onerous rules on a trucking company that these guys spend every waking hour worried about logbooks and lug nuts and rules and regulations, and they take their eye off the ball. They forget that they're supposed to be making accidents and injuries go away, which is part of our problem, by the way. Hi, Matt Pilata. The next person you're going to talk to, and I would hope more often than the safety person, the next person you're going to talk to is a risk manager. You're going to talk to risk managers. Risk managers in big companies buy the insurance, manage claims after they've happened. So if we've run into Matt and he won't quit talking during my presentation, no, a risk manager cares about managing claims and keeping the cost of claims lower. Smart risk managers realize that if there were fewer accidents and injuries in the first place, the cost would be lower, and I don't have to buy as much insurance, but only the smart ones get that. In a smaller company, this role falls to usually the CFO. So at J-Rail, there's a guy named Fred, who's the finance guy. Fred buys the insurance. In a smaller company with, let's say, 100 to 150 drivers, Ashley buys the insurance. She's the owner, right? And the smaller the company, the more likely the insurance premium is going to be higher and the deductible is going to be lower. So if Ashley has 50 trucks, she's probably going to have a $10,000 deductible. And her insurance rates are going to be $6,000 or $7,000 per tractor per year. Transport America, and we'll find these numbers out next week, right? Transport America has 1,500 drivers. They have a $3 million deductible, and their insurance rate's $1,200 a year. It's cheaper than your car insurance. Why? Because what's the chance of them having a $3 million loss? The insurance companies are collecting all these premium dollars, hoping that they don't have any losses this year. But more on that in a minute. The next person you're going to talk to is an owner or a key manager like a COO. And the last person you're going to talk to may be someone in HR. And I don't know that that's the order necessarily, but they're the four people you're going to care about. So
And maybe pseudo training.
that's right, I'm sorry. Yeah, there may be, if it's a big enough company, there may be somebody called OD, which is organizational development,
And they have,
or there could be somebody in training.
yeah, or an L&D or something like that.
Yeah, learning and development person, sure, I'm sorry. Now, let's go through them just for a moment. I said the safety managers get it all wrong. That's true. They care about CSA scores, and they care about DOT scores. CSA is called the Compliance, Safety, Accountability Act. And it was about 5 years ago that the government said, oh, we don't have enough rules, let's come up with some more rules. And they came up with these things called basics, 7 basics that decide whether or not you're a safe operation. By the way, 6 of the 7 have absolutely nothing to do with the word safety as we define it. Safety is freedom from risk. 6 of the 7 don't have anything to do with safety. However, CSA scores, these guys, safety managers, live and breathe by. So when they're, and if you get to 100, you're toast, you're out of business. When they get to this 55 to 65 range, they're in deep trouble. And you can find that data out before you make the phone call. All you have to do is type in CSA score, he'll show you how to do it. And if you're talking to a safety manager, if you know their CSA score, you'll score points because you're going to say, hey, I couldn't help but notice you got a 72 in cargo, and you got an 81 in unsafe behaviors, and you got a 15 in hours of service. There's 7 basics, and you can learn about them later. That's not important. When
Or
you,
it'll make you look like a fool when you actually research the wrong company, like this morning.
that happens.
So I said, hey, you have a great satisfactory rate on your, and he says, oh, that's not us. And I was like, oh, sorry.
That can happen. That can happen. But my point is, even knowing the lingo, the jargon, puts you in a better position. Oh, this girl, she gets it. She understands CSA scores. But then what you do is you turn the conversation. You say, I see that your CSA scores are a little high in this area. However, our real focus is on reducing accidents and injuries. Are you responsible for that? Well, yeah, by default, but what am I going to do about accidents and injuries? Well, we can do a lot of things about accidents and injuries now that you mention it. They're not just accidental. They don't just happen like the fate of the gods. There are things that we can do, and we can improve your accident injury rate. If you're talking to the risk manager, he or she cares about profitability and the cost of loss, which is these combined. Actually, it's cargo, it's cargo, injuries, accidents, and something called GL. GL is general liability. Somebody walks up the front door here and slips on the goose poop. They sue me. That's a GL claim. It's general
I almost
liability.
sued you today.
Okay.
That shit's getting big.
So there's 4 or 5 categories. 4 or 5 categories of loss that all add up together to become loss cost. That's that number right there that you can impact. The risk manager cares about overall loss cost. The owner probably cares about, if he's Jerry Rail, growing the business, if he's Ashley, making a lot of money, and probably somewhere in between, right? The HR person probably, depends on the size of the company, probably cares about finding and keeping employees, keeping them happy, making sure they're properly trained, making sure there's somebody in the pipeline to take Bob's place when Bob retires next month, maybe benefits, maybe sexual harassment complaints and lawsuits and things like that. The training person, again, depending upon the size of the business, either OD, training, learning and development, probably is very myopic and says, I have to teach everybody Microsoft Word. I have to teach everybody whistleblower. I have to teach everybody this, that, or the other thing that's required of me, because they're not empowered nor high enough in the organization to say, I should be teaching everybody leadership, or I should be teaching everybody language so that they're more efficient and effective at their job. Unless they're a PhD type person in OD, these people are pretty basic, okay? So to your point, Derek, every one of them has a different agenda, and every one of them looks at different key performance indicators.
And one more other thing, along the same lines within these, and I'm talking huge, so actually you're going to be focusing on the big dogs.
That's right, that's right.
So some of these have, I'm the safety, risk, and fleet manager.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it will be
Sure.
subsumed into one title.
Sure.
But that safety part looks at that, the looks at that, and then he still has different.
Ashley's so smart though, and knows how to make sales, that what she'll do is ask questions. Whereas I go in with both of my guns out, pulling the triggers, and saying, you don't know anything about what you're talking about, shut up and listen to me because I'm the smartest man in the room. Now, I'm not as bad as Jeff about that, but I still do it. You'll go in with your very humble look on your face, very hat in hand, and say, what hurts around here, man? What's the biggest problem that's keeping you up at night? How you doing with drivers? How you doing with accidents and injuries? Do you have any idea what your cost of loss is? Do you know who does know that? Because usually that's where we get started with somebody. Not saying that's a good place to start with you, sir. You may have a different issue. You may have OSHA issues. You may have compliance issues. You may have productivity issues. You may have fuel economy issues. However, we can usually get the biggest bang for the buck from what we do by reducing your accidents and injuries. By the way, check this slide out where we reduced Baker Hughes by 56% in 2 years. Check this slide out where we reduced Laidlaw 78% in 15 years.
We could be wrapping up 50 minutes.
Why is that?
We can do our meeting.
Oh, Linda canceled it. I'm sorry. I have a 4 o'clock call with the Canadians, but I think Linda canceled the 3 o'clock. Sorry. I'll meet with you. I'll stay all night.
How long is the 4 o'clock meeting?
I was booked, by the way, for 5 meetings at Fleet today at the same time. You had me booked here for 4. So
Yeah, we gotta talk about that.
I got to figure out how to get back to,
Well, no, we're
not
just,
John, but
we're gonna do one day and we're gonna block it off so nobody even gets on your calendar that
yeah.
Well,
Something,
they need to send you meeting invites that goes on your Outlook.
that's correct.
No, he's gonna block out one day where he goes to Fleet.
Yeah, but I had 3 meetings today that weren't on my
How long
calendar.
is your Canada call?
20 minutes.
4:20?
Sounds great. He didn't want to stay and learn anything. I'm teasing. That's fine. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He really does. All right. So, Ashley's Trucking Company exists to move Bob's ball bearings over here to Bill's company in Wichita Falls for $1.50, $1.60, $1.70 a mile. She looks at all this stuff to make sure that she's going to make profit on that because she doesn't make a lot of profit. She's got to be very, very careful with her shekels or she'll lose money on that move if she has an accident, an injury, or it's late, or there's cargo damage, right? If she messes up one ball bearing, she probably lost all the $2,000 she was going to make on that load today. It's a very nickel and dime business. It's a very basic business, a very simple business. And by the way, even though I'm on camera, I'm going to say it is owned, managed, and staffed largely by B and C players. These are not rocket scientists. Doesn't make them bad people. They're just basic folk. They're good, salt-of-the-earth folk, but they're not visionaries. They don't think like Avatarians think. They don't think in these terms at all. All they think about is, I got to take those ball bearings and get them out to Kansas next week. It's a pretty basic business, pretty basic folk. And so we're coming in at fairly high level, trying to teach them some fairly high level concepts, which means we have to get it down to one piece of paper and one simple thing. It says, see these? We'll make these go down 30%. What's that worth? 30%? 40%? $4 million? Let's get started.
Do we have a visual for this?
We're working on
I
it.
was gonna say something like this would be nice.
We have stuff already present, but we're trying to work on things.
This is too confusing.
To understand.
You can understand it because you're smart. This is way too confusing for even Jeremy to get. Seriously. It is. It's just too confusing. It took you several months to really, in my mind it's so clear, but I've been doing it for 30 years and that's the problem. I'm too close to it to appreciate that it's messed up. What I do know is that that trucking company looks at this stuff. What I do know is these people are either a good fit or a bad fit, and I do know that they do stuff all day long, that some of it's good and some of it's bad, and if I make more of the good stuff happen and less of the bad stuff, those numbers get better, they make more money. Right? And at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do to influence these people. How do I make a guy more productive and perform better? Well, I could hire a really good guy first. Always start with good stuff. I could train him. I could educate him. I can motivate him. I can hold a gun to his head. I can give him a bonus. I can give him the promise of a future rosy raise or something else, depending upon his particular motivations. But that's about it. That's all I can do. I can't do anything else. That's where Avatar shines. We come in and we improve process. We improve the way you hire, the way you train, the way you lead, the way you motivate. It gets better B's out of everybody. This is what I call OD 101. This is really the crux of who Avatar is in specific relationship to trucking companies. I could just as easily do this for an ambulance company, a bank, McDonald's, and I could tell you their KPI because after 26 years, I know their KPI. And the irony of ironies is a lot of them are the same from one industry to the next. The Container Store cares about productivity. McDonald's cares about productivity. Shell Oil cares about productivity. They all care about accidents and injuries. They all care about quality control. They all care about timely delivery. Now, it means something different in each one of those kinds of businesses, but that's what most people care about. And the reality is this is what the owners care about, and that's what we care about. We care about making them more money, more profits, more stability, more growth through helping them get better performance out of their people.
Talk about, real briefly, cost of loss and how, by what we do, we can reduce it by 2 to 3% to make it real, to make it, to give them a real hardcore number.
That's a very good one.
That is something that Ashley can do off the cuff, right on a call, or right on, in a meeting, on like you said, on a napkin.
That's right. That's ideal. It's actually ideal. So, let's use TA because, or no, let's use SEVA. SEVA is currently spending right now, on average, $12 million a year for liability accidents. That means auto liability or collisions. Their trucks smash into people and it costs them $12 million a year. SEVA currently is paying $13 million a year for their employees who get injured on the job. SEVA is currently paying just a little bit south of $1 million or $800,000 a year for cargo claims. They're smashing, losing, or otherwise ruining the stuff they picked up and promised to go deliver somewhere nicely. These three numbers together, I believe, would be somewhere in the magnitude of $25,800,000. Am I right? Historically, if Avatar comes on the scene with a company that's either doing nothing or very little in the way of proactive, preventative risk management, we can, falling off a log, get them 30% in a year. If we knock it out of the park like we did at Baker Hughes, in the second year we got a 6% reduction. So if you take a 30% times 25 million, it's about 8 million. It's about $8 million of savings. Now, that $8 million, ironically, isn't up here. That $8 million is profit. This company, SEVA, was operating at 5 or 6%. So if it was a $1 billion company, it was making 5 million? It was making 5 million. We just gave them 8 million. You know what we just did? We just doubled their profit. Doubled their profit. We didn't increase it 10 or 20%. We doubled it. That's why this number is so profound. We didn't help them make $5 million more revenue. We made double their profit. Actually, more than double their profit. Almost twice double their profit.
Which affects their P&L, which makes them...
Well, it is their P&L. Yeah, that is,
looks
yeah.
good in front of their boss, which...
Their shareholders all just picked up a 50-cent dividend for every share they had.
There are intangibles for all of them.
Their CEO just got a $400,000 bonus for being so profitable. And to that point, that's what we did at Laidlaw for so many years in a row that by the time they sold the company, there was $110 million left over in a bucket in New York City at the biggest insurance company in the world called AIG, and AIG didn't know what to do with the money. It was cash, $110 million, and they had to settle up because it's like if you ever bought or sold a house? If you buy or sell a house, you have to settle up things like taxes and pay all the taxes up to current, make sure everything's repaired and everything. First group bought Laidlaw. Laidlaw had $110 million in a bank account that nobody knew about until the sale went down. When the sale went down, they go, hey, we got $110 million here. Do you know what they did in Scotland? They threw a big ass party. Hey, we bought this company and there was an extra $110 million left over. All because of Avatar. Specifically because of Avatar. The last day in the office, the CEO says to Jeff Castle, who was the risk manager in charge of this and working with us for 26 years, says, I never realized how deep your tentacles reached into our business. I never appreciated what an impact you had on everything we were doing.
So most companies just don't see that connection. They don't see that reduction in loss claims, how that factors into profit and actually can even double what they're making currently.
Which is why we need the formula that you asked me for 2 weeks ago that says, if you tell me how many trucks you got, let's say you got 1,000 trucks. You take 1,000 trucks times 110,000 miles a year per truck, which is pretty average, times $1.85 per mile, which is pretty average, and that equals a number. You can do this in your head after a little while, but whatever that, let's say 1,000, a billion one times 2, so this is about a $2.7 billion company. Check my math if you want to. It's about a $2.7 billion company. Mark Gardner told you, you can take it to the bank. They're paying between 2 and 6% for losses. Don't even go for 6, go for 2. 2% times 2.7 billion is roughly $45 million. Right? You with me on all this math? It's $45 million. Mark Gardner told me in our first year, we can reduce that by 30%. 30% times $45 million is $15 million. Now let's go back. They're a $2.7 billion company. Mark Gardner told me they're making 5% profits. They're making 5, 10, they're making $14 million a year in profits. I just gave them $15 million. I just doubled their profits. I want you to be able to do it as quick as I just did that. And you can, trust me, it's not rocket science. It's simple, basic math. These numbers hold. Trucks times 110 times $1.85. That gives you a revenue number. Multiply it by 5%, that's their profit number. Take their losses at 2%, multiply by 30%, that's what we can save them. This number is always going to be equal to that number at 30%. We're going to double their profits. It's almost like we should lead on our website, we will double your profit. Or eat our hat. Have you ever heard that saying? Oh my God, you're so young. Does that work?
Perfect. Yeah, actually, that might be it.
That's it in a nutshell.
And we can get all of those up before a call.
Exactly, you
It's
can.
all common
Can
data.
we?
And what I do is I just opine.
Mhm.
So you got 1,000 trucks. What you guys are probably like 2.7 million,
You lead them through the.
and they go, yeah, well we're a little bit lower than that. What do you pay for cost of loss? 2 to 3%? Yeah,
What's the 110,000 stand?
that's how many dollars they get out of a truck per year.
Okay, so it's like their operating profit per truck or something?
It's their top line revenue per truck.
Okay.
Yeah. If I have a truck and a driver, I can probably generate about 110,000 in sales a year.
So when you're talking to them and you're leading them through that conversation, are you asking them what they generate per truck? Or
Instead of doing that, I just assume it's 110.
Okay.
And you know what? It's so right so often. They go, whoa, how'd you know that? Been in the business a little while. 110,000. Oh, I'm sorry, 110,000 miles times $1.85. That's it. I'm sorry. This is miles. This is dollars per mile. Sorry.
Miles per truck.
Trucks, miles per year, revenue per mile.
Miles per
Year.
times,
$1.85.
$1.85.
You charge them.
because that's what we charge now.
No,
No.
Well,
$1.85 is what they're getting to haul Bob's ball bearing
right,
somewhere.
Okay.
And that's an average.
That's an average. If it's a tanker, they're getting $4 an hour, a mile. If it's a flatbed, they're getting $2.45 a mile. If it's a reefer, they're getting $2.30 to $2.40 a mile. Different trucking companies, based upon the cargo, can charge more or less.
More risk involved than it'd be higher.
So 1,000 trucks.
Yeah, $1.85 is a good number to use though, because if you use a $1.85 and you use the 2% times revenue as their loss factor, when you make the 30% times the 2%, it's always going to be this number here. It's a circuitous formula. You're always going to double their profit.
Put that on the website, right? Just look up.
I've already planned on doing it so they can key it in themselves and get their.
Now, I will give a king's ransom for anybody that can explain what I've just said so that a dumbass can understand it, because I can't. I've tried. I've tried for 26 years. Y'all ain't dumbasses, that's why you get it. I'm saying we need to figure out a way to say this so that the average C player in the trucking industry, even in a big company like Gary at TA, gets it. Oh, I get it. You're going to double my profits. Hell yeah. Where do I sign? When do we get started? Let's not wait another day. It should be like shooting ducks in a bucket. It should be. However, my challenge has always been to make that so simple that they understand. Now, the other 3 challenges I told you yesterday are, I don't believe you. You can't really do that.
And that one we can prove.
Yeah, well, here's what we did at a Baker Hughes. Here's what we did at Later. Here's what we did at Republic. Here's what we did at Viola. Here's what we did at Shell. Here's what we did. I mean, believe me, we got proof. The next one is you can do it at those companies, but you can't do it here because we have our own special, unique problems. All these numbers kind of bear it out. These are all the things you told me are important. And if we know our numbers off the top of our head, we say, we getting 2,800 miles a driver per week? Yeah, how'd you know that? We getting 33,000 load average? Yeah, how'd you know that? You ain't so unique. Right? And then the next one is, we can do it ourselves. Yes, you can. But you're the one that just told me that you're spending $25 million a year on losses. And I'm here to say that I can cut that by 30%. So whatever you can do, you are doing. And whatever you are doing is getting you this number here. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do something better. I'm going to do something more so that number goes down $8 million.
You know the definition of insanity?
Keep doing it the same. You'll get the same results. I'm telling Alex to put that in one of his slides. You hired me to be the vice president of safety. You want me to reduce accidents, and you're telling me keep doing the same thing. I'm not going to be able to improve the numbers if I keep doing the same thing. I got to do something different. And what I'm saying is Avatar is something different. Anyway.
Well done.
Does this work?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm anxious to see your model. You've seen my model yet again with the addition of a truck and Bob's bearings because I wanted to, I could easily do this with hungry people, McDonald's, mouths with cheeseburgers in them, right? The model works for anything, but your role and your job is we're making the world a safer place. How do we do that? We analyze your business, the people who work there, the specific things that they do in the performance of their work, and then we create outcome-based education and training that affects their behaviors so that you get better results. What are your losses? Probably 3 to 4% a year of revenue. We can probably cut that by 30%. What would that be worth? Now, you can lead with the money, and you can also lead with a bomb and apple pie. When Alex called me from Baker Hughes, his first comment was, we've just killed our 6th person this year. 6 employees have been killed driving our trucks to and from the oil fields. 2014. I need your help. Great,
I tie
Alex.
it all in together. I say, hey, yeah, definitely, we can save you costs of loss. Definitely, we can make you look better in front of your bosses. But ultimately, you and I are on this call together to get your drivers home to their families safely every night.
And how many drivers did Baker Hughes kill in 2015?
0.
0. And how many did they kill in 2016? 0.
Oh, sorry.
0.
Yep.
That's 12 people. Give it a number. $500 a person? I mean, that's 12 families that have their breadwinner coming home. So there's moral reasons to do it. There's good reasons to do it. And by the way, that's fatalities. We're not even talking about thousands and thousands of injuries and broken arms and gashed fingers and all the other stuff.
Yeah, that's what the guy today said. He said, most of my injuries are outside of the truck. I hit a knee, I hit my elbow, I sliced my hand on,
We can teach people how to avoid injuries. Lifting, PPE,
He was interested
pinch
in
points.
all that, accidents and injuries, orientation, and then obviously the soft tissue.
Okay.
Did you send him those things that he wanted?
Not yet. I haven't had time to be
No,
yet.
you're doing a follow-up for the
I
next
will.
time.
We're good. Thank you, Mad Dog. That's good. Hopefully somebody